Okay, welcome to the show. This is TED Talks Too Much, and I think we've got another great one for you today. I am Ted Moss, ex-toddler parent, stand-up comedian, and your host. We are located in the OK Boomer Studios, just north of Detroit, south of Flint, and the birthplace of the automobile industry and the middle class, where we are now experiencing new labor pains, just hoping to be born again. And while we all wait for that, let's talk. And on today's show, we've got an up-and-coming comedian, Justin Divozzo from Detroit. We're going to talk about hair care, child care, and a little bit about philosophy. For that and a whole lot more, stay tuned. All right, we're going to get right to the show, but first I want to remind you, you can pick up TED Talks Too Much t-shirts, sweatshirts, pop sockets, phone covers, and other merch now on Amazon.com. Just go to Amazon, type in TED Talks Too Much t-shirt, get yourself a shirt. We have ones that say TED Talks Too Much and other ones that just say Talks Too Much. So if you got one of those friends that just talks too much, have we got a gift for them? We appreciate it. Support the show. And now, let's get back to our guests.
So if you got words coming out of your head, you got flowers coming out of your heart, you got peace flowing in your intention, you got fire coming out of your heart.
Okay, here we go. On today's show, we've got a smooth-talking young comedian from Detroit, Michigan. He portrays a hick on stage, but in reality, he's a very conscientious single parent and has a high interest in philosophy. Strange combination, funny guy. Let's give an OK Boomer Studio welcome to my friend Justin Divozzo. All right, Justin, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing?
I am doing great. I have not seen you in forever.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been how long? Maybe a year? A year
God,
and a
I
half?
hope it's not a year.
I think it was a year.
Do I look older?
No.
All my friends lying to me. I like that. Thanks,
Yeah.
man. That's cool.
It's
No,
just a touch of gray. You have just
you
a touch
think?
of gray.
You know what? I was thinking about making all my hair white. Instead of gray, just going all white.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Try it.
You
Do
know,
it.
maybe I'm so old it'll just make me look ancient, or maybe it'll look good.
Well, you've done so many things. You have so many projects and passions. I mean, why
I should
not
work
try
on me?
Well, yeah, just try something else. Break a few eggs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What the hell? I mean, what can go wrong? It doesn't matter. I'm not dating anybody. Nobody has
You
affected me
might-
as I am.
You might be after
Yes,
the white hair.
I know.
So yeah.
Women like men with white hair. I think old women like men with hair.
Yeah. Oh man, if you keep it,
Yeah. Any
I've-
hair is good hair.
I've noticed that. I'm 30, and most of my friends, not most, but a good number of them went bald by like 25,
Yeah.
24. And it's been really strange to see them as the years go on. And like when you hold on to your hair, you're like, man, I might be having a shitty day, but you know what?
Winner, chicken dinner. I got some hair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like my days are numbered. I'm sure like it'll recede pretty bad at some point. But till then, I'm still
you're golden.
Still leading the class.
You know what? I had a really good buddy in my fraternity in college, and I lived with him in a house. And a really good looking guy. Mm-hmm. And in college, he was already pouting because he had one of those receding hairlines in the front, just getting deeper by the day, man. Just looking worse and worse. And his granddads were bald, so he was destined. And he was bummed about it, too.
Did he shave it?
No.
How long did he keep it like that for?
Well, for as long as I knew him. But I was in college. This is between the ages of 18 and 22.
Yeah.
But this is back in the 70s when I had curly hair down to my shoulders. I mean, and his is falling out. He was like, he couldn't do that. It's a bad look if you go bald on top and have long hair.
Yeah, and like keep it in the back.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people do they do like a ponytail. So it'll be bald on the top, and then they got like this
but
like
they wear a hat
tail.
a lot.
Yeah.
You wear a hat a lot.
Yeah, I do. I actually always have. I have really really wiry, like thick hair. So like it's a pain in the ass, dude. Like how girls complain like if it's humid out, it gets like an afro.
Yeah.
My hair will literally turn into an afro.
Oh, is that why the hat?
Yeah. So like at work and stuff, if I have to do presentations to a customer or we have like a walkthrough, I'll almost always gel my hair, like weddings, things like that. Any formal like interviews or something. Yeah, I will. But for the most part, it's a pain in the ass. And then even if you put like some gel on it, like a pomade, it'll eventually just get like just frizzy and like an afro. My little brother had an actual afro for years.
Really?
Big.
He could grow an afro.
Yeah. He picked it out with a pick before.
Wow.
Yeah, we just have really like thick, like wavy, curly hair. So it's kind of, if you don't wear a hat, it's kind of a pain in the ass to like manage it.
Only on TED Talks Too Much will you hear men talking about hair care.
Yeah,
I think it's wonderful. You have great. Yeah, I guess you have great hair. I don't know. It's under your hat.
It's not.
It looks good.
It's not great. It's just hair.
I always put a hat on in the morning because I don't want to scare people. Honestly, and it takes me a half an hour to get my hair right where I can go out in public without a hat.
What products do you use?
I use some kind of Redken gel, and I put a bunch of it in there, and I got to dry it. And then I use some spray sometimes on it. It's a lot of work. I'm gonna look like one of the Beatles if I don't put shit. My hair will not stay back. It's right down. I mean, it's trying to come down forward all the time. Anyhow, I get that little Elvis thing happening because it wants to be down on my eyebrows.
Yeah. See, going white, that doesn't seem like such a hard thing now, does it?
Yeah. Well, I thought about going really short too. You ever thought about that?
Like a buzz cut?
Yeah, kind of.
I've got a buzz cut a few times. Yeah. I was actually going to get a mullet when we were during the quarantine.
Man,
because my hair was really long. Like I didn't cut it throughout the whole thing. So
and I was you're married. I guess you can.
Yeah.
I guess
I'm not.
What?
Yeah, I'm not. No.
Were you married?
No, I was not.
Oh,
no.
You know what? On your Facebook, I saw a bunch of wedding pictures.
Yeah.
And I assumed that was your wedding.
No, that's not mine. Yeah.
Oh, you're posting pictures of other people's wedding.
Yeah, I was standing up in the wedding.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, I've stood up in 3 weddings. I think. Yeah, 3 weddings.
Well, you're at that age. How old are you?
30.
Yeah, well, you're getting out of that age range.
Yeah.
There's a big rush on weddings between like 25 and 30, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone's just kind of like looking at me like, are you gonna? Or you gonna? Like,
well, do you live with a woman?
So I lived with my daughter's mother for a few years, and obviously we were together before my daughter, and we split up 2 years ago now. So, but it was a great. Hey, you know what? Sometimes you just don't get along with people, and sometimes things don't work out. And it's a really nice thing when you can both look at each other and say, you know what, this is not the best for us or maybe the family. And we became a lot closer actually when we split up. Oh yeah, and it's I have friends and family members and people all over. I hear stories of they split up and everyone's mad at each other, and I never wanted that. So I wanted to make sure that when we did, like, I just work my hardest to make the relationship with me and her. It still is a relationship. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's going to be in my life forever.
Yeah, she will. Graduations, weddings, everything. Yeah. All the holidays, you're going to be talking to her about who's going where and when and how. And it's a lot.
Yeah. I talk to her every day. She gets annoyed because I call my daughter like 5 times a day.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, does your daughter stay with you some of the time?
Yeah, I have 50-50.
Oh,
so.
Do you know I did that?
Did you? And it's great, right?
I wrote a book on it.
Oh, get out of here.
No, look out, I'm parenting here. A survival guide for a single parent for parents of toddlers between the ages of 1.5 and 7.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, well,
that's awesome.
Well, you know what? I did it back in the 80s when no guys did it. Mm-hmm. And when I went to court for my divorce, I wanted full custody and might have been able to get it. But I recognized that the kids needed their mom, that there's some loving things that women do that guys aren't in tune with. And, my kids were like 2 and 4. 1.5 and 3.5 or something like that. And they needed their mom in their life. So I settled on 50% custody. But from the judge's perspective, it was a shock. She was like, are you sure you want to do this? Because what guys did back then, they just like signed a paper, said I'm going to do every other weekend and then not show up half the time.
Terrible.
Yeah, 2 days a month was a lot for men back then. And I said, no. I want my house. I want my kids. I want my family. If my wife doesn't want to be here, I still want everything else.
Yeah.
I will take everything else. I want to be part of that because, it's because of my childhood wasn't all that great, and I want to do better for my kids. And I really loved being a parent. I really loved the interaction and stuff. And so I ended up with 50-50 custody, did that for 16 years till they were off in college. Never missed picking them up once, never missed dropping them off. My ex wasn't that supportive. She never once picked them up or dropped them off. Never once. All the clothes I would buy them for Christmas would go to her house and never come back. I'd get the old shit, and I'm going, well, this is weird. So I had a lot of that. But my kids, I think, benefited from it a little bit. It's kind of weird to think about, but because kids grow up in a closed environment, they think that the rules of their house are going to be the rules of the school and the rules of everything where they go. If the behavior is that you can scream when you want something at home, then you go out in the grocery store and scream. That's why you see kids misbehaving, because this is what they do at home. Yeah. But the interesting thing about joint custody, they have to adjust to two different houses and two different sets of rules. So they know at my house, here are the rules, and they know at their mom's house, here are the rules. So for them to adapt and go to a church or a school and have to learn that there's a different set of rules, they're used to that from 2 years old. Yeah, that's right. I understand in different environments. And that's a more sophisticated understanding of social behavior that little kids don't get until they're exposed a lot. Usually don't get that until they're 7 or 8. But if you have joint custody, you have to realize that this kid is adapting.
Yeah, I was going to say their adaptation is way better
it is.
For environments.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't as good, but that is one of the pluses of it.
I agree. I completely agree, actually. I think depending on the relationship, too, of course. I mean, it's worse for kids to be in an environment where they come home and they see their parents argue, or they just, you don't have to yell and scream for a child to notice that there's something wrong.
Yeah, there's animosity there, that there's tension, that people are not happy. Yeah.
And for the kid to subtly take those little injections of misery throughout 10 years, 15 years, I mean, that becomes a part of them. Right. So whether they admit it or not, or whether they even notice it, when they move on to going into relationships, they start to, that behavior becomes normalized. Right. Like, oh, it's okay to be upset all the time, or that's just how relationships are. And I wanted to avoid that so much. I was just like, when she gets older, obviously we'll talk to her and explain these things, but.
How old is she?
She'll be 3 in like 10 days.
You need a copy of my book.
Yeah.
My book actually is not a front to back reading book. It's a quick reference guide. So if you have a problem, you look it up and there's 4 to 5 pages on that problem. Like if they won't stay in bed at night. You look up this section, you got 4 pages, and I'll give you the 4 key points to keeping them in bed. And then I'll tell you a little funny story and the reasoning behind it, and a funny story that applied to my kids and how I learned about it. And that way, at least you have a jumping off point. If it doesn't work exactly that way for you, at least you'll have 4 hints that, if I change this, maybe that'll help me do that. And it doesn't matter if it's staying in bed, if it's potty training, if it's acting out in public, if it's shyness. And so I set the whole book up as if it was the book I was looking for when I was a single parent. Nice. Because first thing I did is I went out and I said, I need a book on parenting, and all I found were books that, if you have a child that's misbehaving, I'm going, no, that's not my problem. Yeah. No, and I just wanted the basics of parenting because, at some point the kid walks in your house and you're looking at him and going, well, I got to do something with you. Yeah. What do we do now?
What do I do?
I'm not really sure. And it's really hard at first. And you go, okay, I got to build structure. How do I do these things? Yeah. How do I get her cooperation? How much do I let her do? How much do I do for her? And there's a nuance to every one of those behaviors that changes over time. And I thought, if I can help people out, and actually my kids were so well behaved. By the time they were like 5 and 7, they were so well behaved that I had friends calling me up asking me for parenting advice, which is really weird for a guy in the 80s to have women calling you up going, how do you get your kids to do that? You know what? Yeah. And I said, well, here's a couple tips, and I would help people out. And I thought, this is bizarre. And I thought, you know what? If I ever get a chance, I'm going to write down all these tips, and I was going to call them Teddy's tips. Oh, nice. And so I started making the book, and originally the book was called Uncle Teddy's Toddler Tips. And then I actually gave it to a girl that worked for a literary agency. And she said, first thing you got to do is change that title because it sounds like you're a perv.
Yeah.
I thought, I didn't mean that. Because the first one I started giving advice to was my sister, and I was the uncle to her kids, Uncle Teddy. You know, toddler tips from Uncle Teddy, and I thought it sounded friendly, like teddy bear. And you know, I didn't know. I wasn't a pervert. I was just trying to be helpful.
Chapter 1.
What
Who
to do with
knows?
small children?
Yeah.
Take your white van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First thing, spray paint all the windows.
Yeah. Have some big stuffed animals in the back and a lot of candy.
Yeah.
No. Anyhow, that's, you know what I think is really cool that you're in tune with that.
Yeah.
And what's your daughter's name?
Adelaide.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Actually, it's weird because I wanted that name for the longest time. I think because I was like 16 years old, I liked that name.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I have a daughter, and another weird thing is a lot of people, I feel like guys, they really want to have a son, you know?
Yeah.
And I wanted a daughter.
Yeah, you know what? I
did.
totally get it. I totally get it. Actually, I have 4 kids, and I had a daughter, then a son, then with my second wife, I had a daughter, and then she was pregnant, and everybody said, "I bet you're hoping for a son." I said, "I am hoping for another daughter."
Yeah.
I really like parenting daughters.
Yeah.
I think daughters are easier to parent, and sons are a little bit tougher to reason with, and also you got to make sons a little bit tougher to endure the environment that they're going into. So it's a different thing. And I love little girls, and little girls love their dads. And it's so cool when they're little, they're like thrilled to be with you. And all, I mean, all those things that aren't quite the same with sons.
Yeah. It's heart melting, honestly. And, I feel like having a daughter, I feel like I'm going to learn so much from her. You know, I feel like she's gonna learn. She's gonna grow up learning from me, and then I'm always learning. Like
I actually have a chapter on that about listening to your kids and seeing the world through their eyes.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about it.
I'm totally giving you a copy of my book.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it sounds
only
amazing.
$19.95
plus tax. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll absolutely take a copy.
I've got copies around you. I'll give you a copy.
Yeah,
of my book. That's cool.
I think that's one of the best parts about parenting is that you know, I'm learning. And as soon as I can admit that I'm going to make mistakes and I'm not going to be perfect with it, but you got to try your absolute hardest. Yeah. And you know, they're going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes. And as long as you can support them, you know, I think that's the only way I can see myself failing is if my daughter is afraid to talk to me about something. Yeah. Or if she thinks that because she did something, I won't care. So that's my biggest goal is to be like, hey, we want to try to avoid mistakes as much as we can. Right. We want to learn. If we do make the mistake, let's rebound and learn from it. But don't ever not tell me about something because I want to be able to, you know, maybe I can help.
Right. Well, the interesting thing about kids is that they're all different. Yeah. I mean, they give you a good one to start, and then they give you a little hellion for the number 2. I mean, that always seems to work out that way. But also, you have to work within the restrictions of the kid's personality. Yeah. Because just like normal human beings, kids have a personality, and they respond differently, not dependent just on their sex, but dependent on their, you know, the composition of their personality. Yeah. And some people are harder to get through to. Some people are visual learners. You know, there's just different ways to work with different kids. Now, my oldest child was brilliant. Genius IQ, worked on Wall Street, just a really bright girl, really driven. I mean, like crazy driven. Went to Ross at U of M, and I mean, she's that kid. And she was driven from the time she was 4. If you came over to my house at the time she was 4, she'd interview you. Who are you? How do you know my dad? What do you do? If somebody moved in the neighborhood, she'd go knock on the door and interview these people. I mean, that's how she was. If she came to work, I'd lift her up and put her on the desk. She'd sing to everybody. I'd say, sing. She'd just start singing. Yeah. My son, totally shy, quiet, hide behind your leg, doesn't want to talk to anybody, doesn't want to be the center of attention. Interestingly, he became a singer-songwriter. Actually had a record deal, traveled the country, had a little bit of local fame.
See, he got over the
you know what? There's a lot of people in entertainment, like stand-up comedians like you and I and other forms of entertainment that are shy people. Their real personality is shy. And I don't know if they're compensating or they only can do it in certain circumstances, but that was interesting. Then my next daughter is just gorgeous. She's beautiful. We wanted her to do some modeling. And my youngest daughter is a nationally ranked athlete. You know, she set all the local records in golf. She was just like athlete, and she was athletic in everything. I mean, from the time she was like 3, she was just unusually fast and athletic, coordinated. You know, in ninth grade, we gave her a basketball, never had touched a basketball, put her at center court in ninth grade, swished the ball on the first throw.
Holy crap.
She could do a throw into the middle of the field in soccer in 8th grade. Wow. I mean, she was just that kid. Anything you asked her to do, she was just a champion at it immediately, but very humble. Which is
so important, though.
Yeah, you know, but I'll tell you what, the interesting thing, the point I'm trying to make is that all the kids are different. You know, my youngest child wasn't brilliant. You know, isn't going to go to Ross Business School. Mm-hmm. And my oldest child is never going to set any records in sports. You know, my son, who's very musical, but he's kind of shy, you know, but he's very charismatic. Everybody likes him. You know, I mean, every kid, so you got to work with different personalities. So you'll get through this first one, and if you have more, you'll find out the same tactics don't work, but maybe the same strategies will be good.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's great advice. And also, congratulations on all the kids and their success. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah,
that's fantastic.
I'm lucky, man. Yeah. I'm lucky.
It sounds like they stayed so busy. I think that's so important for people, not just for kids in general, but they're busy. You said, you know, music, songwriting. The one was an athlete, and the business, smart. Always, you got to stay busy. You have to.
You know, I think there's a thing where parents are almost scheduling their kids too much, that they don't have enough free time to use their imagination. Now, when I was a kid, long ago and far away, mom and dad would want to have sex or something. I don't know. They just kick you out and they go. Just come back at lunch. Go outside and play. I don't want to go outside. Yeah. I mean, you know, I got nobody to play with, nothing to do. I don't care. Go outside. Don't want to see you for hours. And at 4 years old, you'd walk blocks away from your house, and they were okay with it, but that's how it was. But we would go to the park, and we'd make camps, we'd find things to do. I think that's important. Nowadays, it seems like, okay, you're going to be on the pre-soccer team, then we're going to go to the schedule to the dance thing, and they almost don't give the kids enough freedom to find out who they are.
Yeah, something that made me pretty upset before was my daughter's sister is she'll be 6, and
your daughter's sister.
Yeah, so
your ex-wife had another baby.
Ex-girlfriend's daughter, or her daughter. Yeah, so she'll be 6, and we had her in a lot of like soccer and dance and gymnastics. And I think one of the most frustrating things for me dealing with that was how much they kind of pushed her in those sports. Like she was 4. And she didn't give a rat's ass about soccer. She wanted to be on the field. She wanted to have fun, but she didn't give a crap if she scored. And you got parents just yelling onto the field. And it's like, oh, man, it gets you. I was so frustrated going to those games. I was just like, dude, can you shut the hell up and let the kid just have fun?
Yeah.
No one's even keeping score.
Yeah.
And that should turn anybody off of something. If something you're doing passionately and something that you love to do starts becoming like, oh, I'm getting yelled at, or, oh, I should have ran faster, or, oh, I could have scored more goals.
You know, there's two sides to that coin, though. I agree with you, and for 3 of my kids, that was the case.
Yeah.
But what do you do with a kid that is an outstanding athlete, and you can see it when they're 3 and 4 years old? And you think, okay, this kid can really do this stuff. Yeah. They're well beyond anybody else. I mean, when Sam was 6 years old and we would take her to the ASYO or AYSO, whatever, the soccer, whatever it was, the youth soccer, we would get out of our car and walking to the field, girls on other teams would go, there she is. That's her right there. That's the girl. You know? I mean, because she was the kid. Yeah. She was the soccer player. And so when you have that kid, things change because you gotta put them up against people that are better. Yeah. You got to take them out of this, put them into travel soccer, try out for the better teams. Mm-hmm. Now you got coaches from Europe that are teaching the kids at a young. So the whole thing is different. And I remember when she was in 8th grade, she had already broken some track records in junior high school, and she tried diving in 8th grade because her mom was a diver, taught her how to do it. So in 9th grade, she was gonna be on the swim team and dive, and she was going to play golf. And so I went and talked to the athletic director of the high school, and I said, look, my daughter's coming to your school next year, and we would like her to both be on the swim team and golf. Now, she's going to dive, so that's not really a team sport. She can practice anytime, but we want to coordinate this so both coaches will let her do it. And he goes, well, she hasn't done high school sports. They're really competitive, and it takes a lot. And I said, well, she's going to be the best golfer on your team, and she's going to be the lead diver on your team. But every parent thinks their kid's that star, but my kid truly was.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, I don't care if they can do it. So then I asked the golf coach. He said, yeah, she can be on both teams at the same time. And then we asked the swim coach. He said, if she misses one practice, even for a golf match, she's off the team. So she had to compete on the boys' swim team instead of the girls' swim team because that was the other time of the year. So she golfed in the fall and dove in the spring, whatever it was. I can't remember which way it was. Maybe it was opposite, yeah. But in any case, I said, that's fine. So as a freshman, she dove for the boys' team, went to the state finals as a state finalist representing the high school. She was the only one on the swim team that won the county that year, but she was the only one that qualified for state in her second year of diving. And
that's awesome.
You know what? But every parent thinks their kid is that athlete. And it's a weird thing when your kid really is that athlete because people don't believe you. Because I've heard the story from every other parent. Yeah, my kid's going to be, all right, we'll see. So it's a hard situation. And also, I went to all her golf practices. I went to all her swim meets. The weird thing about golf is, unlike other sports, nobody cares about high school golf. You can be the best in the state of Michigan. It's not getting you a scholarship. And there's no team. In soccer, you qualify for a top team. They set up your practice schedule. They set up your tournaments. They set up your workouts. And they set up how much you travel and where you go and when you play. In golf, there's none of that. You go to a swing coach once a week or once a month, and he looks at your swing, and then you go away. So if you want to golf, you have to enter into a tour. You got to pay the tour fees. You got to enter into a tournament. Sometimes you got to qualify, which means you got to go to another tournament to qualify for that. And all the tournaments are 2 days long, which means you got to get a room. So you're 14, 15 years old. You got to travel for 2 days someplace, get a room, feed yourself, get out to the tournament. You got to set up a practice schedule for your kid. Okay, you're going to practice. She practiced every day except Sundays or the day after a tournament. That was our rule. Mm-hmm. And so every parent of a golfer is involved from day one in coaching their kid.
Yeah.
And that's why all these pro golfers thank their dads. Because their dads was the one taking them to the tournaments, paying for the tournaments. I mean, my kid's 15. We got to go to, North Carolina for a tournament. How do you do that? Or Traverse City for 2 days, and she's got to practice. Who tells her to go practice? I'm like, no, you're practicing at noon, Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays you're practicing at 8 a.m. or whatever it is.
Yeah. You
got to set up a schedule. And then you go to the swing lessons, and the swing coach will walk you through it and say, okay, you should be working on her hand position at this. And then so you go to the range, you go to every practice with her and sit there and watch her. So the cool thing was I had sold my business. I had time to do this. I gave up golf completely. And all I did was coach her at golf and do stand-up comedy.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, well,
and look
cool.
how it turned out so good, too.
It did.
That's what's great.
I know. I got to pay for all those tournaments, and she got free college. I feel like I still paid for college. At the end of the day, it cost just as much, I think.
Yeah.
But she's a really good. She shot a 69 in high school. She's a very good golfer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The lowest that had ever been shot was by a girl with 77 before she came through.
She crushed it.
By a boy with 72.
She crushed it.
Yeah, she did. She beat them all. She beat the boys' record and the girls' record. Yeah, so that was very cool.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. I love it.
Yeah, that's all her stuff up there.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, that was fun for me. Fun for me. So it's, maybe, who knows? Maybe you'll find something that's special to your kid.
Yeah.
And whether it's sports or whether it's music or entertainment, you never know what they're going to like,
Yeah, I'm lucky. She's very curious.
Oh.
So she has to know how things work and
mechanically.
Why they do. Yeah, she is so focused on things. I'm so proud of her. At 3, I'm so proud of her. We'll go throw we have this big kind of bouncy ball thing. She likes to kick back, and she'll see me throw it. I was throwing it on the roof, and then it would roll down.
Yeah.
And she was so obsessed with having to try to throw it on the roof, and she couldn't. And she just the diligence she had of trying it without getting frustrated. And then
hold on, how old is she?
She'll be 3.
She can't throw the ball on the roof at 3.
No, she can't.
She's way too short.
Yeah. But
You need
you
a
have to
shorter
let
roof.
her try.
Yeah.
You just have to let her try.
Give her a short. Do you got a shed?
We were actually. I was thinking about. I have a patio set with an umbrella, and I was like, man, I wonder if she can make it on there. But my point is that
well, take the umbrella down and lay it down. Just have her throw it at the umbrella.
Yeah, she does anything she sees me do. I'll turn around and she'll kind of try to mimic it, or like it's really awesome that she's picking up on all these things.
That's so cool.
And then she's like, you can see the gears turning in her head of like why, and she's asking about like clouds right now and the sun and the moon, and like it's amazing. I mean, you know, I sound like every parent in the world.
No,
but like,
you know what? There's a lot of guys that aren't in touch. I think that's really cool that you're kind of focused on what you're doing, kind of analyzing it and kind of enjoying the moment, because you're going to find there's going to be a moment. I wrote about this too. You don't have a toddler anymore. Yeah. They turn into a little kid. And it's about age 6 or 7. Yeah. All of a sudden they're like, oh, Dad. You know, until then you're the hero. But there's going to get a point, and then they're going to be a preteen, and you're going to go through that. So toddler years were my favorite years. Yeah. I got this little midget person that's my buddy, and we're hanging out. And it doesn't matter what we do. She's in. Go grocery store? Let's do it. We're going to the gas station. Okay. You know, I love those years.
Oh, it's the best. It honestly is the best. She was the worst baby. I mean, she couldn't have been, you know what? And I say this when she's around and everything in good humor, but she was terrible. She never slept. I mean, she slept maybe an hour and a half every night. She had like colic and stuff, and so we'd have her on special formula, which cost an arm and a leg. Right. And she wouldn't sleep. She had to be held. She had to she was so dependent. I mean, obviously she's a baby, but she was so dependent on her mother. She was
very needy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is like, what the hell? This is so hard. Now I get what people are talking about. We don't sleep. Her mom did so much too, which I give her huge credit.
Well, you give up your life for those first couple of years with little kids. Right. Because, I mean, they can't do anything. They're very attached to you. But even at that point, she was showing you her personality. Like my oldest, my really smart one, never wanted to be held facing me. Always wanted to be flipped around so she could watch what was going on. Yeah. My son, who's very affectionate, always wanted to be cuddled. Yeah. Yeah. So these things are born in. These aren't learned. They have kind of little personalities, and you're learning about them as you go.
Yeah. And luckily, it happened at like 14 months old. Something just changed in her. And I mean, she was still is the most independent, just smart. I'll be making dinner, you know, I guess you say, single dad. So I got to make dinner. I got to clean the house. And I just got home from work. Yeah. So you feel bad, but you're like, all right, here, watch, an episode of your show. I'm going to make dinner. And she's just so independent. She goes in her room. She'll grab her toys, or she'll come out. She'll pull a chair up and help me. Yeah. You know, it's amazing. And I'm so glad that she went from being a baby that I was like, oh my God, this is awful. What happened? Well, this is like hell. And then now, I mean, just the most amazing, independent little girl.
That's so cool. I mean, you know what? And she's teaching her a lot about her, but you're also teaching her to be independent and to think about what to do. Actually, I got chapters about all this stuff because I really love this stuff and thinking about that. I think it's great. Well, hey, let's get off this. Sure. We talk about babies all day long. Sure. People are like, I'm tuning out. Enough baby shit, man. These guys. So I know you because you do stand-up comedy. Yeah. And that's how we met. Doing stand-up. I think it's got to be, did I meet you at Bonto, one of Bonto's shows or Mike Ball's shows? Yep, it was Flint? Was it, I remember one time specifically, and it's the first time I remember meeting you, is I went up and you were going up after, and you were nice enough to ask permission because you were going to bag on me once you got up. You said, I hope you don't mind, but I got a couple jokes about you. And I was like, no, cool. If they laugh, I'm good. If they don't laugh, you're an asshole. So either way, it works for me. Yeah. Do you remember, was that the first time I met you?
I do remember that. That was one of the first times, And I had loved your jokes. I did. And I saw the way that you had, the way you were performing them, the way that you executed them, and then the way the crowd was engaging with them. I was like, well, if I could be, kind of cheap for a second, I want to do that again, and I want to play off of it. It was funny. Yeah. And I was like, I think they're gonna like it, and it's kind of a good way to like keep it going.
I didn't know it was a compliment. I thought you just wanted to rag on me.
No. And you have to ask permission. I mean, if I don't like somebody, and that, there has been some shows where, I'll admit I was being a dick and I didn't like something someone said, or maybe they jabbed at me earlier and I went up there, but I would never ask them. I would just go up there and roast them. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just you got to play off. It's a big show, man.
Yeah.
As long as the crowd is digging it, they're into it, and we're a team when we go up there.
I agree. I agree. You know what? And sometimes you say I'm just spitballing up here when you're just off the top of your head. You do a lot of that, and I think that's hard for new comedians to do that. That's an uncomfortable position to go up there and go, this is nothing I prepared. I'm just talking about what's going on here right now.
I love doing crowd work. When I started, I took the Mark Ridley's comedy course and
with Bill Bouchard.
Yeah,
the first course. Okay.
Yes, and it was a good class, and I didn't pull too much from the show, to be honest with you, the class. It was fun. It got me kind of comfortable with the microphone and stuff like that. But he just kept saying, he's like, yeah, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. Yeah, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. Yeah, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. And I'm like, well, everybody else here is getting like a one-on-one, like, here, work on this or try doing this in your joke. And he was like, oh, dude, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I was like, man, I don't like writing. I never got the writing part down. I was just lazy. I didn't want to write.
Right.
And I would just wing it up there.
Right.
And he would be like, you just talking? I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's good. But we need to write stuff. And that's when he started giving me pointers. And I was like, okay. And then when I wrote, I had such a hard time writing. And then the joke doesn't work. And you go on stage and you try a new joke and it bombs.
Yeah,
and it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit. Every time I go on stage and I just start doing crowd work and talking to people, I do great and everyone likes it and they laugh and they talk to me after. And then when I write material and I bomb, no one will look at me and I can't keep eye contact with anybody. But I started realizing as I did more shows and I became more involved in comedy, it's easy for me to do crowd work. It's just a natural, It's a natural thing. I like to talk.
That's kind of built in.
Yeah. But you have to do material. You have to write material. It has to have a structure. And the last couple of years, that's what I've really been working on.
Yeah.
And it's been, now I have like a very confident 30-minute set.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
But that crowd work's always there if I need it.
Right.
So if something just doesn't land right or I lose them.
No, that's a great go-to because most people don't have that. But I would say about Bill's class that really, if you think about the people he's getting, there's a lot of people taking that class as just a bucket list thing. They aren't really thinking about being comedians. They've never been on a stage. They've never talked into a mic. So just to get them in the place where they can grab the mic, set the stand aside, look at the audience and start talking is a get. Oh, and then if they can be the least bit clever, all right, we got a show. You know, he really doesn't try to get you beyond that to get the nerves away, confidence, and he builds everybody up. If they have absolutely nothing, then he helps those people. Yeah. This person needs a joke. You know what I mean? So, well, hey, try this and try and give them something. Now, you probably had some jokes, whether you realized it or not. You had some humorous things you were saying. So he's probably like, dude, you're fine. I'm not worried about, you don't mind grabbing the mic. Yeah. You're kind of funny. You're going to be fine. I have other problems in this class with these other dozen people, whatever. Oh, so that's probably what he's thinking about. And at the end, he probably said, okay, well, we can, punch some things up. Yeah. Make them a little bit funnier.
Oh, so. He offered a lot of help. He's a very nice guy, a very good teacher. Yeah. The class is so good for people in general, and for the comedy scene.
Yeah, if you're going to do stand-up. They don't have that in most places. No. When I traveled around the country, there was no decent comedy classes in most of these cities. So it's kind of a big benefit we have here. Oh, and I think that's why we have so many good comics.
Yeah, and it helps him. It's a perfect relationship. Oh, I mean, he's making a butt ton off the classes.
Yeah, and off those shows at the end.
That's what I'm saying. The class in general, you're talking about, it was $175 for the class. And then it was like $15 a ticket for your grad show. Yeah. So plus the food there, plus the drinks.
And you're getting a couple hundred people in for the grad show.
And he's doing it every other month?
Yeah.
Oh, what an income. I mean, but we need that.
Well, he's, Ridley's getting a cut of that too. It's not just Bill.
No. That's what I mean. I mean, it's good for the business.
Yes, it is.
And that allows Ridley to bring in really good comics from around the country and around the world. And so it's a good relationship that he has with
I think you're lucky because I am so structured. I write really easily. Mm-hmm. I just don't perform that comfortably. I'm more rehearsed. I'm more reciting my joke to you, talking at you instead of talking with you. Okay. So if I was to continue to perform, which I don't intend to do, I've got a couple of shows coming up, but I'm just doing it here and there just for fun, just to stay in the game. But I would work really hard on being a little bit more natural, little bit more off the cuff. But, we all have our weaknesses and our strengths. I mean, I just had somebody offer to pay $150 for a little set of few jokes I wrote.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'd like to sell it, and I have a lot of material. I'd like to sell it, and I was like, oh, dude, how about you just try and use it, and it works out, you owe me something. I don't want to formalize that at this point. But I think if I'm not going to perform, and I've got a shit ton of stuff I wrote, I really do, but it's got to fit you. You can't do my jokes unless they fit your personality. Yeah. But I kind of feel like I can alter that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to try and do that, write some jokes.
That's people. A good gig. You would be very good at that.
I'd be very good at writing them. Whether people would be good at accepting them or not, I don't know. Because comics are weird, dude.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, just trying to do logos and stuff for comics and help them out with imaging, they get really picky really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, it doesn't have to be perfect. Go up ugly, try it out. If it doesn't work, you don't have to pay me for the joke. Or if you don't like, you don't like the logo, well, you know what? You're going to need 5 of them. You're going to need 3 different headshots and a full body shot, and you're going to need 4 different logos, some horizontal, some box. I mean, dude, it doesn't have to be perfect. Go up ugly. Don't worry about your material. Pick something you like and go with it, and then improve upon it over time.
Yeah, I'm excited for your endeavors with marketing and stuff. It's
really
cool.
Yeah. Oh, nobody knows about that. And I was just talking about that. I'm starting up a kind of a little logos and photos company or service because I like doing artwork, and I've got a lot of experience in marketing and stuff. So.
Well, just like the comedy course helps so many people. That's something that can also give back to that community. I mean, we're a team, at the end of the day.
Well, the weird thing is comics don't think about marketing, and we were talking about that.
Yeah, they got to. You have to. Yeah.
You don't have an agent. You are marketing you until you got an agent.
Yeah,
it's your job. It's part of the business. It's not just writing and showing up at an open mic.
Yeah.
You got to promote you, and you need something to send out to them. You need a website or you need a Facebook fan page to send them to. When they go to that fan page, they need good content. That means you got to have funny pictures. You got to have funny bits. You got to have interesting things that draw their attention.
Yeah. Well,
it's all about imaging and branding.
If they see you at a show and you do really well, and the crowd, you've done a show, you've done well, you get off the stage and people are shaking your hands and they're saying, "Oh, that was so awesome. Where are you going to perform next? Are you coming back?" It helps so much to have a website to give them, or to have the Instagram, or to have something so that they can keep that going. So when they go to work the next day and they tell the joke you said, or they talk about how much fun they had at the show, they can say, "Oh, you got to check this guy out. I actually have his Instagram. Here's a video that he did.
He's hilarious."
See, it helps so much. And for me, the hardest thing with comedy was I have worked full time the entire time. I've never been off work except for a month or so, 6 weeks during the lockdown. My business shut down. But that's one of the biggest hurdles that I've encountered in stand-up comedy, is that going from being I work in a shop 60 hours a week. Yeah. And then driving to Burton or Flint or Saginaw or Bay City, Midland, Freeland,
someplace,
Ann Arbor,
a couple hours away.
I mean, I get off work at 5 o'clock. I go in at 6 a.m. I get off at 5 o'clock. I'm driving 2 hours to go somewhere. I do the show. I get out at midnight, and I'm driving home to sleep. And a really bad story that came from that is I ended up totaling a car driving home from Freeland, Michigan.
How'd that happen?
Ah, man, I worked obviously that day. It was like a 10-hour day, so I got out at like 5 o'clock. I drove. Freeland is right. You know where Freeland is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was doing the log.
Just shy of Saginaw, just south of Saginaw. Yeah.
So I was doing the Log Cabin show with Mike Ball, and the show was run a little late, and we got out. It was like midnight, 12:30ish or something. So I was heading out, and I was falling asleep as I was driving home. And I had felt myself fall asleep many times before, but I made it home. So I was like, man, I am like really nodding out. I'm going to get off at the next exit and I'm just going to sleep.
Take a nap, yeah.
Well, I didn't. I fell asleep, and I had the cruise control set at 75. So I smacked a guardrail doing 75. I peeled it back like 25 feet, and I flipped the car down the 14-mile exit.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so right at 14.
You made it down 14 mile and 75. So you were almost home, dude.
I was almost there, yeah. And I woke up right before, and I tried to slam on the brakes, and it was too late. And I remember hearing the guardrail posts rip out of the ground.
Oh, God.
And then it felt like a really strong tilt-a-whirl pulled me. Like you could feel the G-force, and then the van rolled.
Was it louder than hell?
Yeah, and the fucking airbags, man. Oh my! Like getting punched in the face with just.
I'll bet.
Oh my God!
You're lucky it didn't break your wrists.
So I had a concussion, and then my ribs were bad from the belt, but the belt most definitely saved my life. And then I broke the window with my head. So
the side window?
Yeah, which is harder than you could ever even imagine. When my head hit it, it felt like someone punched me in the head, and then the airbag went off.
Like, did it have a side airbag that didn't come up soon enough?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. But
I'm suing those people.
Oh,
dude, it's supposed to come up before my head gets to the side window.
Look, I can't say enough good things. It was a Toyota Sienna, and every airbag went off, and I was fine. I was fine.
Yeah.
So, a little concussion. I had a cut on my head, and then my ribs were bruised and stuff, but I walked away fine. I mean, the cops that showed up,
that's amazing.
They were shaking.
Yes.
This cop was younger than me, and he's like, don't move, please don't move.
Well,
please
they were
don't
afraid
move.
you had a cracked rib and it was going to puncture your lung or your heart by you moving.
Right. Well, I had to get out of the van. That's what I kept telling him. I'm
I totally get it. Yeah.
It's like almost on fire.
Exactly. Out of here would be good. Yeah.
So
wow, were you scared?
Actually, it was just a big shock.
Did you think you were going to die when you woke up and this was happening?
No.
Never occurred to you?
No, not even kind of.
Wow.
Yeah, I just, it all happened so fast. I heard the thumping of the post coming out of the road. That's what I remember the most. And then that feeling of the G-forces as it rolled. And it was crazy, like a carnival ride.
I'll bet. I think everybody should go through that because everybody would be a little bit careful, careful on the road.
Yeah.
Better driver.
Yeah.
I see these little teenage kids speeding around these things. I'm like, you need to hit a wall one time and see what it's like. It'll slow your ass down.
Yeah. And it's such an eye-opening experience. I mean, especially for, comics, people in general out here listening to this. If you are tired, just pull over. I mean, like I said earlier, it had happened to me so many times, but I made it home. So I was like, this is nothing.
Yeah,
that doesn't
I've done
happen.
this before.
And man, it was one of the
I've
biggest.
done that drunk driving going, well, I've done this before.
Yeah.
I can barely stay on the road, but I'll make it somehow. Yeah, one of those things.
Yeah, driving. It's a huge responsibility. You're basically driving a weapon. I mean, God forbid, and for me, I was like, thank God I did not hit anybody else or cause that bad of an accident. But it was an eye-opening experience for me, and I decided that once that happened, I was not going to travel like that anymore throughout the week. So I actually stopped doing a lot of.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I only did like weekend shows. I was still pretty busy. I still worked like every weekend doing stand-up, but. I was like, you're
risking too much.
I questioned if it was worth it. I questioned I have a job that pays my bills and pays my mortgage. And I have all these things that
why am I risking my life? To do this stand-up as well. You know what? I used to be a professional driver in that I was a salesman on the road for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I would go to the office and do some things, and then I'd go out and see my clients. And they were all over the place. So I spent a lot of time in the car. I was the guy wearing a suit with a briefcase in the back seat and sunglasses on the highway. But I was there every day. So I kind of felt like a professional driver. Yeah. Me and the truckers are safe. You see a guy with a tie on and sunglasses and the white shirt, you don't have to worry about him. Yeah. He's an alert driver. This dude does this professionally. This is what, I was that guy. Yeah. And I got pulled over by a cop for not wearing my seatbelt. And this is pre-airbag. And he said, you're speeding a little bit and you aren't wearing your seatbelt. Do you normally wear that? And I said, tell you the truth, I don't. I'm on the road all the time. I'm in and out. It's uncomfortable. I'm doing things in the car and... No, I don't wear it. It's just too uncomfortable. It pins me down. If I get food, I have a problem. I don't like it. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 2 tickets today unless you promise me you'll start wearing your shoulder harness, your seatbelt and shoulder harness. And I went, oh, dude, you don't understand. I do this all day, every day. He said, well, it's up to you. Your choice. And I went, okay, I'll do it. I'll wear the seatbelt. Yeah. And I thought I probably should anyhow. It'd probably be good for me. So from that day forward, even when I went to the gas station 1 mile away, I put my seatbelt on, my shoulder harness.
It's amazing.
And 2 weeks later, I'm driving to work. I'm going around the corner and get blindsided by a guy going 100 miles an hour, turns my car sideways. I hit a concrete median head on, 65, 70 miles an hour. Dead stop with only a shoulder harness on. I would have went through the windshield for sure had I not had that on.
Were you okay? Did you break your shoulder? Or did you?
No. I twisted, well, I was young. I was probably 35. I twisted really hard. I was in really good shape, though. I wasn't like old and fragile. And it hurt my back really bad. And I twisted around that thing, collapsed the car, totaled the car. And I thought I was going to die when it happened because I saw the thing coming.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought, I was pissed. Like, who's this asshole? You know, that was the first thing. Why did you do this? And then I thought, oh, my car's out of control. And then I tried to steer. And then I thought, I'm going to hit the wall. And I thought, oh, my God, I'm going to die. And then I thought, what'll happen to my kids and my girlfriend I'm engaged to and all that? That went to my head. And then I thought, well, I'm going to die right now. And then I thought, oh, this is going to be really interesting. That was my last thought, that I'm going to find out what it's about right now. So I went through all the levels of acceptance of death in a matter of like 4 seconds. And I was like, this is going to be cool. Yeah. I'm going to find out right now. Yeah. I'm going to be, it's going to be bam, and I'm going to be gone.
The question is answered.
Yes.
The biggest question in the world.
And it's answered right now.
Yes.
And actually, when people talk about this pandemic and other things, that's one of 2 times in my life I thought I was going to die. I was absolutely sure I was going to die. And I got to the point where I thought, oh, that's okay. How bad can it be?
Yeah.
It's going to be dead. It's fine. I'm good with that. So I went to the hospital. They checked me out. Nothing was wrong. My back hurt me for 6 months. I thought about suing the kid. The kid was having his first baby. He was young. I thought, I don't want to even get involved with it. And I ended up being okay. I never did sue him. Yeah. I actually ended up getting cortisone injections in my back and a few things. And even to this day, if I pick up something heavy, I can feel it kind of twinge. And I go, oh, I can't do that anymore. I have some weakness that's left over from that, but nothing that I have to worry about. So, but it was good. It slowed down my driving. I'm very, very careful, and I always wear my seatbelt now.
I drive a modified car, so I have the modified exhaust, and I have a turbo and all that.
Yeah.
So what's funny is I drive really slow. And my
why
friends
do you have
make
the
fun of
modified
me.
car?
Oh, I love it. I love cars, man. I love them. Love the way they sound. I love the way they sound. No, if I want to drive fast, I'll drive fast. If I want to go to the drag strip, or if I want to go to the track, if I want to go to like M1, concourse, I'll go to the track.
No, I want to ask you about that, because you kind of have this farm boy image. I mean, how you dress in your Carhartts and your plaid shirts and your baseball caps. You kind of look like a farm boy, but you're from Detroit.
Yeah.
So I don't get it.
Yeah. So this is everybody out there will understand. There's marketing to comedy, and it's very important, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to be recognizable. You have to have an image that they can relate with. You know how many shows I do, and people go, I want the redneck guy. I like the redneck guy. I want the redneck guy. Before I even step on stage, I can see people go, I like him. Yeah. I like that guy. Hey, see him? He's going to be funny. Because I look like them. They think I'm going to talk like them. And it's been 5 years now that I've been doing it. And I started with that. The moment I left the Ridley's comedy course, I said, I'm going to have an image. I'm going to have a goal. And I'm gonna keep set on that. That's what I am.
Well, you're even in that image for this podcast today, and nobody can see you but me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I've been wearing this. It's a comedy thing. I'm putting on my Carhartt.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Yeah, this is actually one of the first times I haven't worn my boots. I got my Nike running shoes on. So I wear my work boots.
Because I always thought you were from out in the boondocks someplace.
No.
I never knew, and I looked it up, and you like grew up in Detroit.
Detroit,
Detroit proper or Detroit Metro?
So for a while I lived on Neff and East Warren, which is between like 6 Mile and 7 Mile.
Oh,
so
that's Detroit.
Yeah. But for a lot of my life, I lived in St. Clair Shores, which is just a metro suburb of Detroit, which is a very nice neighborhood with very nice things. So I was very lucky to live in a good neighborhood. But I lived in very bad neighborhoods. I was born in a bad neighborhood in Detroit. When I was a child growing up, I was in a bad neighborhood in Detroit. And then when I was a very young adult, I went back and lived in Detroit. And it gave me a really good perspective on just everything with people and being accepting and understanding things. Because when I lived in Detroit as an adult, you always feel like there's that tension, like that racial divide. And one of the most beautiful things I learned from living there was how similar we all are. I fish, I hunt, I do all that stuff. Yeah. But I would have my fishing gear in my car and I'd be driving off and my neighbors would stop me and, hey, if you're going to catch something, bring me back, Yeah. So it was so cool to bond with people that you normally are divided from. And then to find out how much
because
similarities.
You were in the neighborhood with them.
Yeah. We, when we lived there, so at first everyone was kind of quiet with us and we were quiet with them. And then as we kept living there and kind of like making improvements to the house. And I used to, there was 2 abandoned houses next to me. So I would cut the grass at the abandoned house because why
it
not?
looked like hell.
Yeah, and why not? It's only going to help the value of my home. It's only going to make everything look better. So when they started seeing us do that and like really be a part of it, I remember one time the lady came across the street and she knocks at our door and she goes, "Hey, my neighbor Kurt, we're having a movie night tonight and we want you guys to come over." Oh. So what they would do is they would have a projector that would project on the side of their garage, and cool. They would make like nachos and like food and.
That's awesome.
So we would come over and like parties, and there was an after hours house behind me.
Yeah.
So like, man, just to get involved with that and become a part of that was so amazing that it really made me feel like I was a part of like an actual community, like a close community, not just a neighborhood, but like my block and my street and my neighbors.
What do you think about the racial divides today? That people see you and they automatically make assumptions about you and your parents and your upbringing and your privilege, if you will. Because I'm an old white man, so I get a lot of that. From people that know my story and know my background, I don't get any of that. But people that don't know me and make assumptions based on what they see today, I get a lot of that.
I had a guy I used to work with, younger. Well, he was in his really early 20s when I worked at Home Depot. I worked there and in the afternoons as an extra job, and he had told one of the other workers. He goes, "Yeah, I just think he's racist." And I was like, "Oh my God, why would he think that about me?" And my buddy who is African American, Quan, he's like, I think it's the camouflage jacket. And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think that's what's doing it." So I ended up talking to the guy, Mike, and we ended up becoming really close, coworkers, and we just bullshitted with each other all the time. And we finally talked about it. And he's like, "I did actually." And he goes, "It was how you were dressed, and I made an assumption." And he's like, "But then once I got to know you," he's like, "It's crazy." And then
I don't know why that's connected. Do you think that the slave owners wore a lot of camouflage back in the day?
No, I just think that so many people that wear camouflage are fucking ignorant.
Well, because they think they're backwoods, they aren't educated, and they don't understand. They haven't been exposed to multicultures.
Dude, we're humans.
I get it. Yeah, but you know what? People make these. Anybody that knows me is okay with me. But I do have positions that are considered to be conservative. Now, I've always thought I was a liberal. I mean, my whole life I've been a liberal. And it doesn't matter if it's, civil rights or gay rights or women's rights. I mean, I did speeches on campus about it. I grew up, by myself from the time I was 19 years old, poor neighborhoods. And my best friends were, of various cultures. And we were even bucking the system, walking around with people of various cultures back in the early 70s when everybody was into segregation.
Right on,
I was, and
right on.
I remember walking into a football game at Western Michigan University where no black person lived with any white person at Western.
Wow.
They intentionally segregated. If you were a black person, you moved into a dorm where assigned with a white person, the black community immediately told you, move out. So there wasn't anybody on the whole campus back in 1970 that was black living with anybody white. They also didn't stand for the national anthem. They also cut every line at lunches. Yeah. This was their way of separating. Yeah. We went through a period where they chose to separate, and that's fine. But my best friend was black, and he wasn't even a college student. He was a boxer.
Yeah.
He was a nationally renowned boxer that needed a place to live. So we let him move in, and he had nobody to hang out with. We started hanging out. I would walk into the football games with him, and we'd sit together at the games, and everybody hated it. But I thought, I don't give a shit. Has got nothing to do with you.
No.
If I don't like him, I'm not gonna hang out with him. If he doesn't like me, he's not hanging out with me. It's got nothing to do with melanin.
Absolutely.
You know what?
Yeah,
it has to do with who you are. Now, there's a lot of black people I don't like. It's because they're assholes.
Yeah.
It isn't because they're black. But there's also a lot of white people I don't like because they're assholes. I'm an equal opportunity not liker.
Yeah, they're just fucking ignorant. Ignorance is a problem, and it's spreading so bad right now, and it's hard for people that do take they take the time to learn. They use the scientific method. If you have a problem, it's literally, you can solve these things. You don't need to guess. There doesn't need to be a conspiracy. No. There is a truth to everything, and you will find it if you do the work. It's lazy to not do the work.
Right. Well, I think you got to take a measure of a person by interacting with the person. You can't just see them and all of a sudden judge them. But this has happened. I was always looking forward to being old. I thought, I will have some wisdom. Hopefully I'm smarter now than I was 10 years ago, like I'm sure you are. And I was smarter 10 years ago than I was 20 years ago. And it's not that I've lost anything. It's I've gained a calmness and an understanding and kind of an overreaching philosophy to my life. And I have things that I can tell people that may help them in some areas. And I'm glad to do that. But anymore, people see me. Nobody wants to listen to old white man. I have that problem when I do comedy. It's honestly, as soon as I take the stage, it's like, all right, old white guy, we can go to sleep, man.
Yeah. I remember you saying that in one of your jokes. I remember you were performing, and you had shouted it to the front row, and you're like, you don't want to pay attention. I get it. I'm an old white guy, and I'm up here rambling, doing my old man stuff, and I think you had said something about if there was an armchair up here or something. It was funny. Yeah.
I don't remember saying that, but I don't remember a lot because I'm old.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's tough. I think it's a very tough time, and I think there's legitimate concerns on a lot of things with a lot of people, but I think the way people are going about resolving them doesn't make a lot of sense to me in many cases.
Well, there is wrong and there is right.
Yes.
And sometimes when you are trying to do the right thing, you sometimes fall victim to doing the wrong thing.
Well, you know what?
Intentions don't mean you can't. The intention you have doesn't always justify the actions you are doing.
Right.
So, for instance, the looting and the rioting. Okay, listen, I'm all for the cause. I love the cause. I will fight with you. But you cannot destroy things in the process because you lose your voice to the violence.
Right. You do.
You need your voice.
But that's just a minority of people. Yeah. I believe that there's an underground majority of people that are sitting back going, that you shouldn't be doing that shit. That doesn't help. And I'm just like you, And I think there's a very loud minority. And with the internet and communication the way it is today, you can be a minority and have a very loud voice.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, you can put bots out there, thousands of bots to do automatic tweets and things to make you seem louder than you really are.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately the majority is going to have their say and have their day. And you just have to tolerate what's going on. And we're in this election year that's very contentious. And I can't wait for this to be over. I'm so over all of it. I'm over both
ridiculous.
sides. I'm over. There's no pundits I can even stand to listen to anymore. No. I'm mostly listening to philosophy.
Oh, who?
Well, I do like Jordan Peterson. I got to tell you.
Jordan Peterson is great, a modern philosopher. Are you familiar with Albert Camus at all?
Yeah.
Oh, Camus is fantastic for an existentialist view on life. That's amazing that you're also in a philosophy.
Don't
let the Carhartt fool you.
Yeah, I know. I do. No, actually, if you went to use the restroom, you'd find I have a big book that talks about all the different types of philosophy and where they came from and all the philosophers and stuff. So I like learning things, and I know a lot. I know a little about a lot of things. I should say that. I'm very broad.
So do you know my, I think I have this on one of my social media things, but I've been saying it since I was in middle school.
I probably don't.
It's my philosophy has always been, I would rather know a little bit about a lot than know a lot about a little. Because I want to be well-rounded. So I want to pick up everything. That's why I may not be the best at each musical instrument, but I can play a song on most instruments that I've picked up. I skateboard. I may not be the best, but I'm still good, and I enjoy doing it. Cars.
I used to skateboard. I could ride it on my hands.
Get a handstand?
Yes, handstand.
No shit.
I was the only person down at Western that had a skateboard on campus.
Is that in the 80s?
And this is back 1970s.
70s?
Yes, when it first started, man.
The Zephyr Boys.
Sidewalk surfing, man. Yeah. Back in the late 60s when it started.
Dogtown and the Zephyr Boys.
Right. It was, Dogtown. That's a great movie, by the way. Yeah. It actually is pretty damn accurate, too. It was those surfer guys, and what do we do when we're not surfing? Yeah. But they kind of changed the look of it. I actually learned it before them when people were just balancing on it. If you see the competitions I go to and the guys that were doing the other stuff, that's what I was doing. Okay. Because that's how I learned it. And I learned it, we saw it, and I actually took a pair of my dad's roller skates apart, four-wheel roller skates, and made a board. We didn't have any freaking money. He did not buy me a skateboard. And I screwed them on, and that was my first skateboard.
There's a museum in Bakersfield, maybe Bakersfield. It's in California. So it's a skateboarding museum, and it shows just that.
In Bakersfield? Where's Bakersfield?
California, but I don't believe it's in Bakersfield. Don't quote me on that. It's somewhere in California, but So it shows the first skateboards that people were making, and they did just that. They took roller skates and they zipped out the 4 screws, and they would screw it to a piece of like a 2x4 or a piece of OSB.
Like a 2x6 or something.
Yes.
Yeah. And we
amazing.
did that. Yeah. And we painted things on it like. I think I wrote Goldfinger on it because Goldfinger was a big movie at the time, 007.
Yeah.
And my buddy wrote something on his. And then also there was a little rubber shocker in the middle. And you could change that depending on how much turn you want.
Yeah, how tight the trucks are.
Yeah.
The bushing.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't anything. We were making all this shit up. You know what I mean? We didn't know to have wider wheels, so you had to have better balance. And we'd skateboard in the winter all down in our basement and practice all that shit, and then we'd take them out on the roads in the daytime. But it's kind of like, skiing. I moved out to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, skied 7 days a week out there. I was okay when I got there. I was great when I got, not great, but I was a lot better when I got back. Yeah. Not good enough to do, but that's when they were inventing the flips and stuff and the tricks. The first back flips and all that stuff started in like 1973, 72 and 73. They called it hot dog skiing at the time. Okay. But I'm like you. You know what? And I told this to somebody on one of these. It might have been the last one. But I think the important thing about a college education or any education isn't necessarily what you're going there to study, but it's the general humanities. It's the broad knowledge.
Yes.
Because throughout your life, you're going to run into different people that have different interests, and they're going to be able to talk to you and help you in areas if you have a baseline to start from, to build on. So whether it's, the number of years I worked in the restaurant business as a kid or my skateboarding or my skiing or whatever, or even doing stand-up comedy, you know what I mean? I'm broad enough where I can interact with most people. I owned a business for a number of years. I can talk finance and, valuing businesses and those things. I think what's more important in life than educating yourself? Continue to educate yourself.
Nothing, because you cannot further yourself. You cannot create anything with an ignorant mind. You can't.
I agree.
Creation has to have the inspiration. The inspiration comes from knowledge.
Yes.
So you need to have it. And I know it's so funny because you mentioned
we're going to be such good friends after this, man.
I know, it's amazing.
I'm 68 years old. You're my grandson, just about. I don't know.
What's amazing is how many people will stereotype myself, and I'll say, yeah, he's a hick, or he's like this. And, to their credit, when I go on stage, that is what I like to portray. That is the audience that I've pulled in. And to be honest, I've done a really good job with, being able to have that marketing.
No, I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, you took a strategy. I totally like that.
Since the beginning.
We were talking about branding before the show, that how important branding is. Yep. And you got to have a brand before you can go out and market it.
Yeah.
And you're branding well. Yeah.
We just did a...
your grammar's too good, though.
Oh, yeah. So,
honestly, your grammar's too good. Your grammar kind of gives you away, dude.
So what happens is well, okay, real quick. So like we do these these shows for for charity and all that, and we'll actually have a lot of times where people will request. They'll be like, yeah, I want that one guy that I saw, and they'll be like, well, who? You got to tell me. The redneck guy. What redneck guy? The redneck guy in the flannel. And so they'll give me a phone call and they'll say, hey, you've been requested to headline this show, this benefit show, and I'm like, for who? And they're like, oh, the lady that shows up at all of our bi-weekly shows, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing, and it's so flattering to hear that from people, and I do not assimilate that well with rednecks. I think they irritate the living shit out of me, to be honest.
You know what? Actually, I was talking about this show. Somebody, I think I was talking with Ron Rigby. Mm-hmm. He says, who's coming in? I said, Justin. He said, Justin who? And I wasn't sure how to spell your name. And I was like, texting?
Yeah.
I said, that country dude.
Right, yeah. See? It happens all the time. And then, so on podcasts, and so we'll do like, we do like a weekly podcast. I had a podcast, or just talking after the show.
Do you still have the podcast?
I'm redoing it. It should be a couple more weeks. It's going to be called? Thirsty Thursday Podcast.
Thirsty Thursday. Yeah. I like that podcast. Yeah. Cool.
So, but yeah, people are so surprised though. We were at a show afterwards, and someone was talking about Plato and Socrates, and then I jumped in, and we started going on like Socratical stuff, and they're like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" And this lady goes, "You are the last person I would have ever thought could tell me about the Republic, Plato's The Republic," which is an excellent book for anybody who wants to read it. And I love learning. I watch documentaries. I mean, at least 4 or 5 documentaries a week about different things.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, philosophy is one of my favorite, and it's so relatable to comedy. because philosophy is...
I actually thought about going back to college just to study philosophy, but I didn't want to pay the money.
Who does?
I know.
I want some Macomb.
Maybe, I wonder if you can actually sit in without paying. You know, there was a show at one time about a guy that went to college and he didn't get a degree. He never paid the money. He just sat in all the classes, so he got the education.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Well, if it's a lecture and there's 300 students, who's checking IDs? You could go to Michigan State, sit in any class you want, I think.
I don't know.
They don't call roll.
Yeah, why not? Or online, you know, if it was a public format, say that
I don't know if you can do it online. I think online they're going to protect it.
Oh, because it could be thrown to so many different places?
Yeah, because they don't want to give education away. They want to make their money. True. They want to pay for their buildings. They want to pay for their professors.
That's true.
You know, those are businesses. So
yeah. Are you familiar with Alan Watts at all? Do you listen to Alan Watts? Oh, please listen to Alan Watts.
I'll
write it down.
Yeah.
He was from Britain or England, Britain. And he does a lot about like afterlife and
two T's, WATTS.
Yeah, okay. Such a good, very soothing voice. It's really good stuff. We were talking about the car accident and how you thought you were going to die.
Yeah, right.
And you get that feeling of like,
the stages of death, right? Of acceptance. I took a class on death and dying in college. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
and the American Way of Death and all those things. So
it's perfect. Yeah. There's my brother is very heavily religious, which I support. Anybody, if you love something and you're passionate about something, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
It's just
I agree.
Love it.
I agree.
Be good at it and learn about it.
But also don't press it on me.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I
love it for you. It's working for you,
yeah.
and I'd love to discuss it, but not if you're going to get offended if I challenge it, because the reason I'm challenging it is so I can get over my challenges and maybe accept some part of it for me. Like that's why I like Jordan Peterson talking about religion. Right now, I just started a new series on Jordan Peterson. He's taking you through the Bible, and I'm an atheist.
Yeah,
and everybody thinks that means I believe there is not a God, and it doesn't. Yeah. It just means I don't hold the belief that there is a God, and there's a big difference between those two.
Absolutely.
So in any case, and he says, I live as though there is a God. And also he talks about the value, the intrinsic value of stories and why these live on, because there are lessons that are learned, that are passed on. And this is why the Bible has outlived civilizations and everything, because there's something to the stories other than just dumb little stories. Well, and he's kind of walking me through it. So I've got a lot of that to go through. And some of his lectures I like to listen to twice.
Yeah.
Because
you miss stuff, right?
Yeah,
you miss it. And the second time you catch it and you're like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I don't know if you've heard of the book, The Power of Now.
I have not.
Okay. It's a book about being present, about if you're going through depression or you feel bad about your life, it's a great book. It's about learning that the past doesn't exist. The past never existed. Only the present exists. The past are just electrical impulses in your head, the story that you can, that you put together, because everything you've ever done, you've done in the present. And matter of fact, the future doesn't exist either.
It can't.
You're just anticipating it. And also when you anticipate the future, you usually anticipate negative things. Yeah. And when you're reflecting on the past, you're rerunning a story over and over and over, emphasizing all these negative things, because we as human beings tend to focus on the negative instead of being in the moment. My philosophy is, when you're a small child, like your daughter, you're sitting in the car, you're looking out the window, and you're watching the grass go by. You're seeing the grass and the lines and the thing. You're paying attention to right now, and your parents are telling you don't pay attention to right now. Because when they pick you up, you're going to walk to the door, and all of a sudden you get distracted by a stuffed animal, and you're like, oh, look at this. And you're in the moment, and your parents are like, no, we have to be here at this time in the future, or remember last time. Yeah. So they're saying don't be present, be in the past, and be in the future. So kids, we actually knock the present out of kids till they're living always in the future and always in the past. And if you think about it, you probably only live in the present for 15 seconds at a time. You'll live in the present for a little bit, but then you're going to start reviewing a story that happened, or you're going to start reviewing what you anticipate to happen.
Yeah.
To be actually in the moment It takes something special to get you there, and that's enlightenment. Little kids are born into a state of enlightenment, and all these monks and everything that shed everything, when they meditate, they aren't trying to be less aware. They're trying to be more aware of the now and what's going on. And it's such a wonderful feeling to be in the present moment.
Yeah.
People don't know it, but they're magnetically attracted to it. That's why people love dangerous sports. Because when you're hanging off a cliff or you're on a rope behind a boat or you're driving the car fast, you are in the moment. You can't be thinking about some conversation you had with your ex-wife or what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. You are in the moment, and it feels so good. You don't know why. Yeah, that's why people are jumping out of airplanes. Yeah. That's why people watch live sports. Now, I'll tell you a story that I went through a deep bit of depression in my life for a short period of time. But when I was there, I couldn't watch any TV because all the stories were fake. But what I could watch was sports, because sports brings you into the moment. It's like watching a rerun of a football game versus a live. You don't know the difference, but you're like, when it's live, you're like, oh, it's almost like
anticipation.
It brings you into that moment. And actually, this was used back to the days of the Romans. That's why they built the Colosseum, so they could bring the people in to have this entertainment, but that entertainment brought them into the moment. It doesn't matter if you're killing people in front of people or if you're participating in a edgy sport or ride motorcycles. It brings you into that state of enlightenment briefly. Yeah. And that's why the government actually controlled baseball during the Great Depression. They wanted to keep it up and running because they wanted people to have the sports. And I'm not sure if they knew it, but what they were doing is they were giving the people an escape to a point of enlightenment.
That's great. I actually love that theory. I've never heard it. I'm really into it right now. And check out Alan Watts, because he talks a lot about Taoism. And, and that's basically living in that moment and having that freedom.
Is it Taoism?
Taoism.
Taoism. Who's the guy that lectures on Taoism on TV? I've seen the guy that lectures on TV on Taoism. Has the big ball, and he talks about. Okay, it looks like that's going to be it for the day. I want to give a big thanks to my guest, Justin Divozzo, for making it such a great show. You know he's going to be back with us for a part 2 next week, so you can look forward to that. And in the meantime, it's election season out there. So be kind to each other, would you? Try and be understanding. And never forget to try to be happy. And so until next time we meet, I'm Ted Moss, and those are my thoughts. And with that, Bob's your uncle.